after sorting some details, the exclusive story 2 days ago, 8 a.m. in the morning, breakthrough in negotiation. The deal is happening, 50 million euros. Few details to resolve, and then it's here we go. And now those details have been resolved. And today, guys, I want to open this video by mentioning an exclusive bomba out of nowhere. Zero links in the media, zero stories around, and could be one of the big stories of the summer. Let me remind you, it's August now, and we will be ready. Every single day is going to be a crazy time, full of news, full of stories, full of updates. So remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, be part of the family, send your comments, always here to deliver all the news, some big exclusive, just checking on all the stories. So we are here together every single day as always. Many questions on Lewis Hall and Manchester United. I already told you this, I think it was June, and I stand by my information. Man United really appreciate Lewis Hall, and Man United consider Lewis Hall as an ideal player they would like to add to their squad. So Lewis Hall is in Manchester United list for sure, and is a player internally approved at Manchester United. But my understanding is that Newcastle will make their life complicated. Newcastle don't want to sell Lewis Hall. Newcastle already made big money this summer. Tonali, Gordon, Bruno Guimaraes, last video, is expected to join Arsenal this summer. We have to wait for the club-to-club agreement, but the deal is moving in the direction. Bruno wants to go to Arsenal. So Newcastle want to keep Lewis Hall, and Newcastle don't want to sell the player. That's the indication, that's the message. Then, if you ask me, Man United consider him a top target? Yes. Man United are having some contacts to understand the situation of Lewis Hall? Yes, for sure. But then there is Newcastle. And so before saying that United are going to try all in, we have to understand the Newcastle stance and Newcastle position. So it's going to be a story to follow for sure, because Man United are not done on the market. That's clear. They did their stuff in June, in July, but they're not done on the market. And now we are in August.
The bigger story that everyone wants to talk about all the time is the transfer market and exactly who United are bringing in. And I think, look, I think you can judge clubs' transfer business in two ways. You can judge what they do and what they haven't done. And what the business United have done, Andre Santos, young, talented midfielder, exactly the positions that they were looking for. He can move the ball forward. He can put his foot in a tackle. £50 million from Chelsea, maybe not the marquee signing, marquee name that a lot of United fans were hoping for as the first name through the door in terms of this midfield rebuild. But I think that's going to turn out to be a very shrewd signing, to be honest. And he's looked good in these opening games in pre-season alongside Mason Mount in midfield. And then there was obviously Yuri Tielemans as well, £35 million. I think we all know him. We all know his qualities. We all know what he brings, his passing range. For United to get that deal done, £35 million, to trigger the release clause that wasn't common knowledge as far as I was concerned, I think will speaks to the business that they're doing really well as well. And you're still looking around the squad, you're still looking at other holes that need to be filled. I think going into the summer, it was very much a case that United wanted at least two midfielders, but ideally three, given there was so much work to do in that area of the pitch. We've heard so many names connected with United over the past few months, and none of them really reaching a level of momentum where you can be sure that they're making that much progress on any particular deal. And then you look around the rest of the squad as well, and you think of left back. I think that's a key position. Luke Shaw played so many games last season, but that is a bit of an anomaly in his career. There's links emerging to Lewis Hall. We can maybe get into those. Yeah. But even then, if United managed to fill those two positions, you're still looking at the squad and you're thinking, well, they've filled the gaps, but have they really upgraded on what they had last season? And I think that's one question that a lot of fans will be asking.
I'm interested in what you think on Mason Mount. Obviously, it was a big signing from Chelsea a number of seasons ago, blighted by injury, 27 years old now. You'd like to think Mason would be in his prime. Tell us, how do you... Because he obviously has to have a big season for United.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's been a stop-start. Quite literally, given the amount of injuries that he's had, and he's never really been able to get a run of games and a run of momentum. I think there's been a question, even before he was at United, over exactly what is Mason Mount's best position, and I don't think we're any closer to really answering that question. But, as I say, he's been playing in the midfield too during pre-season. He was actually playing, starting there in the final couple of games under Michael Carrick at the back end of last season at Sunderland at Brighton. He was there at Brighton on the final day. He was really classy moments in the goals there. Great contributions to both goals. He's and it's interesting because, as I said before, we were expecting United to go really hard on the midfield and for that to be the priority focus this summer. And to an extent it has, yes, with Santos and Tielemans joining. But the noises that you're picking up over the last few weeks really are that there may be a slight change. They're looking around the market, they're assessing the market, they're deciding which position they're going to prioritise next rather than going all out for this third midfielder necessarily. And that coincides with Mason Mount playing in midfield in these two games alongside Andre Santos. Yes, against Wrexham and Rosenborg. We might see it again later today against Atletico Madrid, a slightly higher standard of opposition. But there is I guess you look at Mason Mount and you wonder, where does he actually fit in this squad? If you're going play for player, role for role, he's perhaps the backup number 10 for Bruno Fernandes, who plays every week, is the captain, the best player, the most important player, and barely ever misses a game. So could Mason Mount potentially fill in one of those midfield roles, save the need to go and sign a third midfielder and allow resources to be concentrated elsewhere? I mean, I think a lot of United fans hearing that would be a little bit underwhelmed and a little bit disappointed, simply because there's been such an expectation that United would go all out on midfield and sign big name targets. But you have to use the resources that are available to you. And I think we all know the quality that Mason Mount has if he's available.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, it's if he's available and not injured. And, you know, I always feel for players like that who are injured all the time. But, I mean, you said it earlier on, classy, you know, towards the back end of last season. When he's fit and available, I think he does start. He absolutely starts.
Well, he puts people under pressure for the position.
Yeah.
And that's what you want. You know, you've got to have a huge squad. And Manchester United had such a good run after sort of into the new year, didn't they? Which is, you know, got them in the Champions League and got them there quite comfortably in the end.
True. Talk to us about Lewis Hall, because there's some murmurs going on there. Do you think he'd be a good move to Old Trafford from Newcastle?
Well, look, I think the context here, as people will know, is that Luke Shaw played 38 games last season, and that is a lot more than anybody expected, probably more than Luke Shaw expected himself, but it's a huge achievement for him. It is an anomaly compared to the rest of his United career, the rest of his Premier League career. His contract is also up next summer. United don't have an option to extend that further. And then you've got Patrick Dorgu, who was playing left wing under Michael Carrick when he was available. He was starting there ahead of even Mateus Cunha. So they need cover in that position. Now, Lewis Hall would obviously be more than cover, I would say. He's an heir to Luke Shaw if he was to join. And he is seriously admired by a lot of key and influential figures at Old Trafford. We've been reporting this on The Athletic since the start of the window. Now, as I said before, the interesting thing is that even just a few weeks ago, I think United, the noises that were coming out of Old Trafford were very much that playing any sort of down, any focus on the defence this summer. They thought that their focus would be elsewhere. There were priorities in other places. We've been talking about the midfield. That stance to me seems a little bit more fluid now. I think, as I say, they're assessing the market. They're looking to decide which position they want to prioritise and target next. And then you have the news this week about Eddie Howe as well, don't you? Which throws a bit of a curveball into the situation. You know, there was a suggestion there was a little bit of an unease between him and Hall towards the end of last season. I know Hall sort of lost his place briefly in April, dropped out for a few games with Dan Burns. He obviously missed out on the England squad as well. So you look at that situation and you ask, well, could a change of manager at Newcastle mean a fresh start? Equally, he's got the attraction of Champions League football at Manchester United. I think United would recognise that this is going to be a difficult deal to do. And it's not in any way as far down the line as Bruno Guimaraes to Arsenal, for example, another big Newcastle transfer story at the moment. And whenever I've spoke to people on the Newcastle side this summer, they've said that they're not looking to sell Lewis Hall whatsoever. So it's not one that is advanced. It's not one that's progressed. But I think it's significant that you're hearing those noises pick up a little bit, and I expect it's a name that we'll be hearing for the next few weeks.
Mark, just briefly, Marcus Rashford, I was saying earlier that, you know, what an achievement if he could come back to Old Trafford and win everybody over again. It's going to be difficult. It's going to have obstacles. How do you see in the early vibe of, you know, with Rashford coming back to the club?
I'm not surprised that this is the position that we're in now, given once it became clear towards the end of last season that Barca weren't going to take up that 30 million option. I think the expectation was always going to be that, but at this stage, after the World Cup, while he's on his post-season break, that he would return, that he would train, that he would be reintegrated in terms of the first team squad under Michael Carrick. Because you have to remember, he was part of the bomb squad last summer, wasn't he? Yeah. And he's the last remaining member of that bomb squad who's still at the club. I think earlier in the summer, Rashford's side, there was still some hope that Barcelona would return, but they signed Anthony Gordon, didn't they? And then after that, they've since signed Karim Adeyemi from Borussia Dortmund. And you saw his goodbye message to Barcelona this week, which puts a lid on that, I think. The question now, I would say, is, all right, how far does this reintegration go? Because your left wing options, we already just briefly touched on them. You've got Cunha, you've got Dogu, who's starting ahead of Cunha. You've got Tynan Thompson, who United have signed from Tottenham. And I know it's not a name that would be familiar to a lot of people, but United have, it's a total 8 million package on this deal. He's been signed as a 18-year-old, signed as an emerging talent. Somebody, think of the signing of Aiden Heaven at United from Arsenal for a similar round fee a few years ago. Somebody who, young player, who will get first team opportunities, who will get a look at the first team. So you've got a lot of options on that left wing. I think, look, Rashford's career looks over. And now at United, and now I would say it's more likely now than at the start of the summer that he stays, but I still think there's a lot of different avenues open on that.
Yeah. Okay, Mark, listen, thank you for your time this morning, and good luck on the pre-season tour.
Thanks, Mark.
Cheers, guys.
That's Mark Critchley, Manchester correspondent for The Athletic, with us this morning. It's an interesting one, isn't it? The Rashford conversation. I mean, how many times have we had this conversation? Seen messages now, it's not all about Manchester United, but that's a huge story, whether he returns or whether they finally then move on for good.
Yeah, and whether the door's open for him at Old Trafford. Because he might turn up and they go, no. The manager could quite easily say on the first day, Marcus, I'm not interested. Find yourself a club with your agent.
Just being away even at Barcelona, and you wonder if he's just grown as well.
Hopefully.
Has he come on? Has he learned more about life instead of just about himself or the people around him?
Or, I mean, I'm sure he knew it anyway, but he's at an incredible football club.
Of course.
What an opportunity if you can be reintroduced into the group. And Michael Carrick says, look, I want you to be part of my squad. He's not guaranteeing him a starting place, but I want you to be there. That's a long way from where he was this time last summer.
Sure.
On these guys and much more, I will keep you posted. Big stories as every single day, at every single time. In Italy, while I'm recording this video, 3:36 a.m. in the night. So it's going to be crazy, guys. Get ready for this August together. Like this video, turn on the notification bell, subscribe to the channel. See you very soon. Thanks a lot.